Right, so we've been doing our power rankings for the various positions. We'll finish up with the back three with Tommy Bowe later on this week. But Brian O'Driscoll's here to talk to us about the 12 and 13 for Ireland and the relative strength and depth we have at the minute. It's a pretty healthy situation we find ourselves in.
Yeah, never seen it before, that strength and depth where you could pick, like, straight away 5 great choices.
Yeah.
And that's before you get into a Stuart McCluskey who could do a great job for you, Rory Scannell, Tom Farrell, who's now finding himself in the mix in a national squad for the first time. So, we are in rude health in the centre position. Does
it matter who plays 12 and who plays 13 in all those combinations? Do you need to play? If you're going to play your way into the team, do you need to be able to do a little bit of both?
I think it helps. I think certain moves will dictate that personnel will switch around, so there's always a little bit of left and right.
Yeah.
Myself and Gordon Darcy played 12 and 13, but at times I would have found myself in the 12 jersey. So, that's largely for first phase, the number on your back.
Yeah.
After that, it's just play heads up. And, you'll use, if you have a Chris Farrell in there, you're going to use him to give you advantage line. But yet, we've seen the subtlety of his hands as well, which, will deceive teams. So you've got to have a mixture to your game because there's an expectation to carry quite a lot in the centre in close quarters in Joe Schmidt's teams where they'll hit up and then use the centres to hit up again. So you have to be quite durable and you have to be able to pack a punch, which the centres that I mentioned, I'm talking about the other ones of Addison, Farrell, Bundy, Aki, Henshaw and Ringrose as the 5 that are vying for probably 4 centre positions. On the plane.
Yeah.
I think the thing is that I think Addison's going to go because of his versatility.
Yeah.
Because he can play wing. I think he might even be recording the fastest times.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I think it might even be quicker than Stockdale.
Right.
I think. Certainly of the centres, he's comfortably the fastest. At straight line speed. So he can play wing. He's played wing in Sale. He's played full back a lot. Did a great job for Ulster at 13, so I think at the moment he's a shoo-in for the 31.
Right, as a fullback on top of the 4 or as one of the 4?
No, on top of the 4. I think that's where he really helped Joe Schmidt out. But then it's going to be at the loss of somebody else in the back 3.
Yeah.
So it seems it's him versus Larmour for the 23 jersey at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think he's now starting to really push as a more viable option for 23. I think he might get into the starting 23 against England, even though Larmour's been outstanding every time that he's been involved in a 23. I just think when you can cover 3 positions...
That's what you call meteoric in terms of a rise. It's like not involved at all in Irish rugby.
I was talking to some of the boys over in England about him, and... he was a nice player in the Premiership, had some injuries and was talked about a couple of seasons ago about maybe being a potential England prospect, but that fell by the wayside very quickly. And the speed at which he's gone into to Ulster and started playing really well, got capped in November and has continued with great performances. I think a huge amount of their back play up north has been down to his addition. Right, well that's always a good sign.
Let's talk through the 12s and 13s and who might be in the pecking order for the 12s. So we'll start with the 12s.
Well, it's Henshaw who I think is Joe Schmidt's number 1. But he struggled with a lot of injuries over the course of the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
He's been around a long time. He was around for a year before. My final year, he was in the mix. He was even training with us the year before that. So he's probably in the squad 6-7 years and probably doesn't have as many caps as he should have because he's picked up big injuries as well, shoulder injuries, joint injuries. So his durability when he plays and his engine and his he's one of those players that's capable of spending 6 months out and you can throw him straight back in.
Yeah.
And not a bother. He just has such a brilliant engine. And then I think, his his starting partner in first choice is Gary Ringrose.
Does that help they play together for Leinster?
I think it has. That element of telepathy, of understanding one another's game, has been honed. Playing with the Ireland out half as well, certainly helps your cause too. Creating a three-quarter line that plays every week, and trains together every week at least. Maybe not plays, because of the amount of games as a collective they play for in the Pro 14. But he is a terrific player. Ringrose, I think he just does the basics extremely well. Doesn't make very many errors. Still has real X factor. Reads the game very well. Defensively, incredibly strong. So I think they're the number 1 and 2 choice. That said, every time Bundee Aki has played in a green jersey, he has been excellent. Really, really good. Scored a lot of tries.
Yeah.
He was the mainstay through injuries to other to the other 3 players in the Six Nations. I think Bundee played all 5.
Yeah.
Where Farrell played 1, played really well, got injured. Henshaw played 2, dislocated his shoulder. Ringrose was late into that, played the final 2. So Joe hasn't found himself with this major headache of having those 4 fit and raring to go and playing well, because Farrell's now starting to get back into some really good form after his long layoff.
If you're Schmidt, you just say, "Oh, look, it's just a this week thing. This isn't my first choice forever. This is my first choice this week."
Yeah, well, that's always been the way with him.
And you keep it mixing up, even if everybody's fit, or do you give it give it a duo the chance to nail it down? Cause
you only mix it up if it's going to help your game plan, or it's going to help you beat one of the opposition in a Six Nations. I think that his trying out combinations and wondering what someone's ability is like, those days are behind us. I think we've seen all of that over the course of the last 2 years. He knows what he's getting from different personnel, and all 4 of those, and now Addison as well, have always delivered for him. So it's, for me, I feel for Scannell because he's played well.
Yeah.
Tom Farrell's been really good for Connacht, but I just don't see. And McCluskey has had another good season for Ulster, but I do not see. I think they're a good bit away from these 4.
Okay. Sorry, I was going to ask, is there a chance that Chris Farrell plays at 12 alongside Ringrose at 13?
Farrell is more of a 13.
Is he?
Yeah, he does. You don't see him playing at 12 much. It's funny, you would associate the bigger player, the guy that could get you advantage line, to play in a 12, but he's always favoured the 13 jersey. And 13s can come in different forms. You don't have to be one way or another. You don't have to be elusive and like an outside break. I've seen Philippe Sella had a bit of everything. He was a big unit. Carry powerfully, great evasion skills, good passing game, and then you can have. I would have been one of the smaller 13s. Farrell is a very, very different type of 13. That said, he still has nice footwork for a big man, good passing game, good offloader, and very hard to stop. His
skill set is more prototypical 12, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I would think so. Ordinarily, yeah, it is. It is. And if Joe Schmidt said to him, "I want you playing 12," he'd say, "Okay." Gives the jersey.
Yeah.
So I think there has to be a flexibility. It's one thing attacking in the 12 jersey. It's a different thing defending in the 13 jersey.
Yeah.
The defensive positions are quite different. So I think you have to have a bit more expertise in knowing what you're doing there, and that's where Henshaw has the versatility of playing 12 and 13. Bundee, plays a bit of 13 as well as 12. Farrell more so 13. Again, Ringrose can play 12 if he was asked to, but he's better at 13.
Yeah.
He's more of a reader rather than someone in straight up collisions. That said, he's a very proficient tackler. So it's hard to pick holes in any of their games.
Yeah. It's also hard to be definitive about where the actual ranking is here because of the small sample size that we've got because of the injuries. As you say, let's say everybody is fit and you've got Henshaw and Ringrose as your starting 12 and starting 13. Is it fair to say that we can conclude now that if Henshaw goes down, Aki gets in, if Ringrose goes down, Farrell gets in?
No, because Bundy and Robbie played together in Connacht and were very effective. So Gary goes down. There's a flexibility of Robbie being able to play 12 and 13, 15 at a stretch.
That's always
if it was called on.
We've never seen it though.
Yeah, I think he likes 15 too. I think
right.
I think if he had his way and he was the coach, he might enjoy a bit more time at 15. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that development. If after the World Cup, Rob Kearney decides to move on, or whether the feeling is that there's time to invest in some of the younger players, Larmour or Conway or a position or an Addison or maybe Robbie Henshaw, to try and fit your best players in, and that's what has to happen. Remember years ago, Shane Horgan, never played on the wing before in his life, and he got capped internationally as a winger and became a winger thereafter. Yeah. Because it's just about getting your best ball players on the park, and when you've got 4 centres of the calibre of the ones we've mentioned, if you can have a positional switch where you can get 3 of those 4 on the pitch, and they'll do as good a job, well then why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why Leinster wanted to keep Joey Carbery and stick him at fullback, but not to mention the war anymore. We've had enough of that. So
it's been a pretty good time for all of us. I'm pretty happy.
That loan period is working out well.
It's amazing.
So it looks like his first choice, Henshaw and Ringrose, are either of them ahead of the other in terms of being close to being guaranteed? Like it seems like Ringrose is definitely
I think he's number one. If you were to pick a centre, I'd go that. I'd probably order-wise, I'd go Ringrose first, and then very closely followed by Robbie, and then Bundy, and then Chris Farrell.
Right. Internationally, how do we stack up against everybody else?
Really good. I did an interview 15 minutes ago, and I was asked what England player would I want. If I could pick one, who would I want to bring across?
Yeah.
And I went through the whole team, and then the journalist said, "So that's none." And I then backtracked because I didn't want them to say none in his article. So I said, I fit Manu Tuilagi, but I don't think Manu would want to. Yeah, I don't think you're dropping either of our guys. So
did Paula get in our team? Or was it only backs?
Yeah, I think Billy does. Yeah. I think that's maybe I should ring him back up and say, Billy, too late, I missed opportunity. But there's really not. Even the second row, James Ryan for me is, he's in. That's it.
Yeah.
And then Dev Toner for your line out, and now what he's doing around the park. Our front row.
Yeah.
Their hooker's not, is certainly no better than Rory Best, whatever their option is there, no way. Back row, maybe Billy would have been the choice. Get my phone out and text you, man.
And what about the All Blacks at centre? Are we as good as them at the moment?
I think we're better than them.
Right.
Yeah. I think that they haven't been able to replace Nonu and Smith. I think that's been because they've had Barrett, and who's carved teams up on his own and been so exceptional over the last 3 years, that he's really made life a little bit easier for his centres. Sonny Bill hasn't been quite at the standards that he's previously set.
Yeah.
Fekitoa's obviously moved on. Leonard Brown has been in and out of the team, and
see the way it's Nonu and Smith, and it's a partnership.
Yeah.
And that's the greatness of that. Do we need to have Henshaw and Ringrose nail down a partnership and decide that we are great as a partnership now, and that?
But that is what it is. I think that's
we just haven't seen it together a lot.
But that's because of injuries, and you can't help that. But I do think that is a partnership that should go for another 7 or 8 years if they can remain healthy comfortably. Yeah.
So I'm going to ring the New Zealand Herald and say Brian O'Driscoll says no All Blacks will get into the Ireland team.
He's not joking, by the way.
Instead of Ringrose or Henshaw, no, I wouldn't. Sonny Bill, when Sonny Bill's fit, I think when he's going well, I think he'd get in our team. But I don't know if I'd pick, Ryan Crotty, nice player, broke our hearts years ago, but would I pick him ahead of Henshaw? Don't think so. And I wouldn't pick Goodhue ahead of Gary Ringrose, no way.
Is Gary Ringrose at Conrad Smith's level just yet?
No, not yet.
But he could, like...
Yeah, he'll get there. Well, Conrad Smith was really one of the greats, probably. From a player perspective, he got the kudos. I don't know if the man in the street or everybody had as much of an appreciation for Conrad Smith as perhaps they should have. He was an outstanding rugby player. So that's very, very clever.
That's the aspiration for Ringrose, and he has...
he's really in that type of player too. He's quite rangy, quick, quicker than he looks. Defensively, very, very smart. Conrad Smith was one of the smartest defenders around.
Right, good stuff. Thanks very much.